my internet will go live. We're gonna try that one more time. It's like still loading. I'm like, okay, go. I'm going to exit and come right back. You stay here, okay? I'll BRB.
Stay. Yeah.
I think we are live. It's saying that we're live. So hello, everyone. I apologize that my internet is not working very well. And so we are already live. But hello, I am Jennifer Garibay. Many of you know me from LinkedIn, from my page. So happy to be bringing you guys the hiring series today. So kicking this off with my good friend, Sarah Davidson. We both are contractors. Do keep in mind everything today that we are talking about is based on our personal experiences, not based on our companies we work for, etc. So please do keep that in mind. But Sarah and I were very fortunate to work together for our contracting team with Google. I've had a great time getting to know her, and you guys are going to love her too. So Sarah, say hello, and if you would tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for the warm intro. It is so nice to meet you all. My name is Sarah Davidson. I'm currently a talent sourcer at Microsoft via Search Wizards. I'm also a motivational career coach. I have a side business called Red Thread Services, and I'm just so excited to be here. I love doing these type of just like talks where it's just like Q&A. So happy to help. I know how hard it is in the job search, but trust me when I say, I know a lot of people say it, but trust me, like your time is coming. Like I'm a big believer. It's not rejection, it's redirection. And you just got to keep on believing yourself because you are going to get that one chance. But excited to be here. Thank you, Jennifer, for having me.
Yeah, of course. So everyone, if you're just joining us, again, this is going to be our Let's Get Hired series. Please do pop some questions in the chat. If you have any questions for Sarah or myself, whether it be about resumes, interviewing, hiring, we're taking all sorts of questions today. But in the meantime, until we do have a few questions, I, of course, prepared some topics. So Sarah, in your lovely experiences, why don't you tell us a little bit about what makes a resume and a candidate stand out to you?
Ooh, I love this one. So the biggest thing with resumes that I think people kind of like forget to mention is like, this is kind of like your first appearance, right? Like you want to show all about your story. I like to believe like your resume is your story. Like it's that hook to get somebody to go on the phone and talk with you. And biggest thing I've noticed is a lot of people will just kind of put their title or they'll put their kind of job descriptions, but they don't talk about what they actually did. I remember I saw one where it was just like technical program manager, and then they put the year. And that was all they put. And I'm just like, how does that set you apart, right? And that sets you apart is telling your story. And I'm a big believer in like each bullet point, you should exactly say what you did, how you did it, and what the results were. Something I like to do is I'll send my resume to my friends just to ask them like, hey, like, does this make sense? Do you understand what I did? And if they can't tell me that they understand my role, then I need to go and fix it. So definitely metrics, quantifying. A lot of times people say, led a team, right? But this is a perfect way where you can say, led a team of how many, manage 5 team members to help create like a project or like use different tool sets. And then also another thing is a lot of people forget the results. Like what was the impact of that project you created, or what was the impact of your role, right? Like that's a huge thing. That really what is, I would say, stands out. Also for university students, your projects, your clubs, your organizations, those like leadership things that you took a part of, those are super important. Like if you don't have much experience, that is experience, like we all start somewhere. So don't be afraid to put in when I was in university, I was a recruiter. I was the recruitment chair for my sorority. And I put that in, right? Because I had to help with this Oprahfest, which had over 3,000 participants. And I had to find people and rush them into our sorority, right? Like that's huge. And so that's something that I think definitely attracted in my past roles. And then other thing is with addresses, please don't put your full address. Let's make sure we have some privacy. You never know where your resume is going to go. So I always like to say, like, just put your like where you currently are, like SF, Bay Area. And then if you're open to relocation, you can just put in parentheses, open to relocate. But I think for me, it's metrics, definitely having really good formatting. If you're talking in paragraphs, don't go to bullet points. Just have one clean formatting. I also like to say, do bullet points instead. It's just a lot easier to read.
Yeah, I would agree. Not a super big fan of the paragraph style. But yes, definitely piggyback on what Sarah said. I would also say loyalty and trajectory are some things that I look for as well. So of course, I never advocate for anyone to stay in a role you're not happy with. You know, if you need to leave by all means. But there are times in our life where we may be in a job and we're not unhappy, right? It's not our favorite thing, but it's doable for now. And you have to sort of make the move to make the move you want to make. Those sort of, it's all a chess game, right? It's all calculated in that way. So, you know, try not to hop around to a million different positions all the time. You know, that is something that recruiters don't want to see. We like to see that loyalty, the ability to stick around and make an impact within a space. Because if you're only there for a few months, it's by the time you learn your job, are you really making an impact at that point? And oftentimes I would say no. So loyalty and trajectory are essential. Definitely would say if you can showcase that on your resume as well, whether or not you moved up within a company. And that's what I mean by trajectory, rather than lumping all your experience into one. I see people do that a lot. They'll be like, oh, just to make it easier, I put it all under this and made it one experience. That can actually not work in your favor, because then it doesn't look like you grew. It looks like you stayed in the same position for 8 years rather than growing and developing. So definitely try to highlight that loyalty and trajectory, as well as definitely all the things Sarah said, formatting. So and metrics. God, metrics are like king. You know, can't talk about that enough, right?
No, definitely. And the thing is too, you got to remember, if someone is looking at your resume and you have all these metrics, you are showing your story, you have a better chance because you took that time to really reflect on your day-to-day and what you did in each company. And that makes it going to be a lot easier when you get on that phone call and you're doing like a phone screen, right? So take that. I promise you, I know resumes can be a hassle and it's time consuming, but take that time to really develop, like think back about like what you did in each role, the impact you made, the results, because then I guarantee you when you're going through the interview process, it's just going to make it so much easier.
100%. And we have a question from Elise who says, so curious to know how you knew recruitment was for you. I will take this one first and then defer to Sarah, but I will say I didn't know it was for me, Elise. It kind of found me. It kind of showed up and was like, hey, pay attention. You should do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So for me, it cultivated my love of helping people, my love of candidate experience, and truly my passion for people, and problem solving. And I think it's the right mix of all of that for me. And I really, part of my favorite thing is getting to be Ed McMahon with that big check, right? And some of you may not even know who that is, but, you know, showing up at your door and being like, hey, you got the job. And so if you can help be even a small part in that process, it's just the best feeling in the world.
Oh, I 100% agree. I think for me, great question, Elise, by the way. So I graduated from the University of California, Santa Cruz, go Banana Slugs in 2019. And I thought I started my job search pretty late. I didn't really think about what I really want to do until like the end of my junior spring quarter, when everyone's just like, you need to get an internship so you can get a full-time job, you know, all those pressures. But it was actually at my career fair that I met this recruiter named Robin. And this is where I did my first summer internship with Ross Dress for Less, where I was a retail leader, kind of like an assistant store manager in training. And Robin was just, oh my gosh, she was absolutely fantastic. I didn't feel like she was just a recruiter. I felt like she was my friend. And even after I realized I didn't really want to be a store manager, it didn't feel like my calling, right? The passion just didn't connect as much. Great experience, but it just wasn't for me. And I remember telling her that. And even though she's recruiting for this role, she was just like, Sarah, like, that's totally fine. Like, let me know how I can help you. I'm happy just to talk. And for me, that was just like really wide opening of like, she didn't just feel like a recruiter. She felt like a friend. And I don't know, I'm really passionate with helping other people. I love talking to people. And during my whole senior year, I just like fell in love with the idea of recruitment. And And as the more I talked with the recruiters, the more I just kind of fell in love with the role, and I just was following my passion, and this is where it brought me now. And I, like Jennifer, I love it. I love being able to find a talent, like find a candidate and be like, hey, like, let's talk. Like, this is an opportunity that I see for you. And just to see them like really open their eyes, be like, wait, like, you want me? Like, I can do this? Like, that's amazing, just to be part of their journey. So I love recruitment. I see myself being here for a while. But yeah, that's kind of how I fell in.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And we have another question from Fazal. But Fazal, I am going to preface this with let's talk about all of tech. Let's not just focus on Google. So, Sarah, in your opinion, how can one start preparing to get hired in tech? Where to start?
Great question. So I think all you guys have heard it. It's networking. It really is just like putting yourself not just like out there, but really diving deep into like what you want to do, right? So when I graduated college, I actually never really saw myself in tech. When people ask me like, oh yeah, Sarah, like, how did you end up at Google? I always tell them I don't like, it wasn't my plan. And like, that sounds so surprising, right? But I was really just following a passion. Kind of how it happened was I saw Google Bold Intern posted on LinkedIn saying, hey, Google's looking for RCs. I reached out to her because I'm interested in becoming a recruiter coordinator, because this, again, came from all my kind of knowledge I learned as I was networking, like how to get my foot into the door to get into a recruiting position. And so then I talked with this Bold intern. She sent over my resume, and then the rest was kind of history. That's where I interviewed and landed the role. So I think the best way is to network. Another thing is to really talk about what you love to do, right? Like I hear all the time, like, I want to get into the big thing, I will do any certain role. And no, like, don't know that is not what you want to do, right? Like these companies, they're amazing, right? But what we want to see, especially in like talent, is like, we want to see, what do you want to do in these companies? The passion of it, right? Like you don't want to be at one of these like companies doing accounting and you don't like accounting, right? So I think it's really important people understand, especially during interviews, when you can talk about passion, you can talk about why you want the impact you want to create, it's just going to be able to be a lot easier to, I feel like, translate that in your skill sets versus kind of like going all over, like, I just want to get into that company, right? Like, how does that set you apart from anyone else who wants to get into that company? So I think biggest way, network, really look into like what you want to do, because I'm a big believer, passion will always take you to your next goals and your next steps.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, excuse me, Sarah hit the nail on the head, guys. LinkedIn is a fantastic tool. And this is something I go over with my clients all the time. And just kind of an analogy I made up one day. It's like, if you are approaching your job search and you're just applying cold, you can do that. I'm not saying it's not successful. You can apply cold and you can get interviews and you can get a job. It's happened to me before. But that is largely becoming the way of the past. And networking is really how you can get ahead. So truly, if you're just applying for jobs cold, I always equate it to like this sort of metaphor. It's like trying to take a nail and hammer it into the wall with your hand. You're just trying to smack the nail in like this. It doesn't work very well. LinkedIn is like a hammer. Pick up the hammer and help yourself hammer in the nail. When you have the right tool, it's so much easier to go about it. So most definitely optimize your profile, start reaching out to people, start building your personal brand and making it clear who you are and what you stand for. Because people want to hire people, not robots. They want to hire people who are passionate about what they do. And if you can convey that and convey your knowledge in the online space, you've stepped way ahead in the game.
Exactly. And another thing too, like I know on LinkedIn, they have open, like a lot of times in the headlines, like I see people put seeking new opportunities, right? That's awesome. But that doesn't tell me like, what are you seeking for, right?
Don't put that in your headline.
Something I like to do personally is if I'm looking for a new opportunity, I'll put aspiring. Like when I was still in uni, I put aspiring recruiter. And that is just a lot easier for people to look at my profile, be like, oh, okay, Sarah wants to get into recruitment. I know exactly what to target, like I'll reach out with her, right? So when you put seeking new opportunities, that is just too general. Put aspiring or like soon to be, or just put in what you want to do versus the seeking new opportunities. And like, again, as Jennifer is saying, it's a lot harder you can do the whole cold emailing, but that's the way in the past, right? Because there's so many roles, there's so many cool roles that I think like you could really look into what you want to do. And it's going to be a lot easier to find those next steps, right? Because when you start networking, you start reaching out to these professionals. I always like to say, go to the professionals, go to the people, talk with the people who are in the roles you want to be in, right? Because everyone had to start somewhere, and they're the best people that have wealth of knowledge of like how they got into that field. And that's going to help you to kind of look at their journey and piece together like, okay, what do I need to do to get there next, right?
Right. No, 100%. And we have a question from Samuel. And I do want to answer this, Samuel. It's not going to be particularly long, but will recruiters give you a chance to interview if you're a qualified candidate from Africa? So I will say this, it's a lot harder to travel internationally, even if you are a qualified candidate. It is significantly more difficult, no matter if you're coming from the US, going to France, or coming from Africa to the US, it is more difficult. And I will say that generally the theme is that more oftentimes than not, most places will go with someone who's closer, simply because it's just more cost effective. So, I, of course, do not want to discourage you. By all means, apply. I actually am not 100% positive, but I would assume there's a Google Africa somewhere. Definitely apply to things more locally. And continue to apply internationally. But I just also want to set your expectations that, especially right now during COVID times, I know most places are prioritizing candidates who are a lot closer. So just keep that in mind. Any thoughts there, Sarah?
No, I think you said it perfectly, but also like it's good to like have expectations, but I also say still apply. It doesn't hurt at the end of the day. Like sometimes some roles are remote, so that works. But what Jennifer said is correct. There's a lot of times I think it doesn't hurt to apply, but yes, a lot of times like companies will go for more like closer there, like closer in state, but it also at the same time, there are a lot of different opportunities. So I think it's just like finding the right one for you.
100%. Yeah. And Poonam says, is Google open to candidates who want to pivot from finance to recruiting? So we will again approach this from a general tech experience, but I would say most definitely. It's all about transferable skills, right? It's all about how can you pivot into where you want to go? How can you show that you have the skills for that next role? And a lot of times what really helps with that is, again, we're going to talk about it, LinkedIn. Leverage it, because when it comes to LinkedIn, you get to control the messaging. So if you're wanting to move into another space, you can start talking about that a lot. You can start talking about your passion for it and gearing your content towards that and starting to interact with people more so in that way. So there's great ways to take your personal brand and allow you to start pivoting in that way, as well as different like skills and courses and great stuff you can do to start taking you there.
Exactly. And if you haven't already, like even at the current company you're at, it's a great way to talk to your manager, right? Like your manager is there to support you. So like if you have a really close relationship, let them know like, hey, like I really have been enjoying myself in this role. I've been here for a while, but I want to keep expanding my skills. And I kind of have an interest in recruiting. Is there some way that I could maybe, do like a project on the side? A lot of times companies have like bungees where you can kind of go into different fields and like see what it's like, either like bungeeing to be in a PM. I've definitely seen people on our team who were RCs who bungeed, right? So I think definitely talk to your manager, talk to people, even, oh my gosh, I think a lot of people don't do is in the companies that they're at, they don't network inside those companies, right? I think that's super important because you're both at the same company. You can both in different fields. And like, this is a great way for you guys to just talk. Be like, you could reach out to someone in recruitment and be like, hey, like, I know we're at the same company. I'm actually kind of interested in learning more about your team. Like, do you have some time to like set up like a 15-minute chat, right? But yeah, as Jennifer has mentioned, it's all about transferable skills. Definitely in recruitment, you want to be able to multitask, organization, great, strong communication. And I'm sure in finance, there's a lot, right, that you have to manage with your clients and organizing the different accounts. So those are all very transferable skills. And also there's finance recruiting if you're interested in that. So I would
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, because you can always get more specialized, We need HR recruiters. People need finance recruiters. So maybe that's your ticket in is, I'm great at finance. And that's maybe where you start. And if you'd like to pivot in other aspects of recruiting, at that point, you'll have more of the experience that you need.
Exactly. And that's also what's going to make you the most special, right? When you go in interviews and you're interviewing for a finance recruiter role, you know exactly the day-to-day of that role. And that's really important as a recruiter, is to really understand this candidate, right? Understand like what, you know, hiring manager is looking for, but also what this candidate's looking for, and like how those kind of mend together and fit. So I think you actually have a leg up on that one.
Oh yeah. And yeah, keep them coming, guys. We got a lot of questions today. This is great.
I'm ready. I love this.
This one's for you, Sarah. I'll let you start with this one. So, how to approach a recruiter regarding a role at their company?
Perfect. Okay. So let's say just like a general company, if you see a recruiter, a lot of times recruiters will actually put in like their kind of specialized role, right? Like they'll put in like, this is what I'm seeking for with this amount of experience. And I think that's a great way to, like, you can kind of target on who this recruiter is looking at. Because again, I think there's a lot of misconceptions, especially at these like big companies, that every recruiter knows every single hiring manager, who knows every single role. We do not. It's very specialized into the different fields that we're in. So what I would do actually is I would look up a recruiter. I would go on the careers page, because this is what I think recruiter is going to tell you, is go on the careers page, and I would look for a role that like you're interested in, apply to it. And then I would go to this recruiter, and if they recruit for this role, awesome. If they don't, you could just literally write, hey, like Jennifer, I like see you're a recruiter at, you know, XYZ company. I'm really interested and passionate about like the certain mission. I actually applied to this role, and then put the job title, the rec of the number, and then say like, I applied here. I'm not sure if you're the right person, but I just want to introduce myself. I have this amount of experience. I'm hoping you're having like a great day. Cheers. And then sign your name. Because a lot of times people will just reach out being like, hey, Sarah, like, here's my resume. Let me know what's good. Again, that is more on, I would say, like a career coaching side, where a career coach helps you find a job. Again, when you're a recruiter, you're working for this company, right? So when a candidate comes to you and it's like, hey, here's my resume, there's so many roles, right? Like this person doesn't know who you are. And if you're going to reach out, make it as easy as possible. Just be like, hey, I applied to this role. Not sure if you're the correct person, but I just wanted to reach out. This is the rec number. Hope you're having a great day. Because like when I get messages like that, I'll look to see if this is something in my role. I'll look at the resumes. And if it's a fit, I'm like, yeah, awesome. Like I found a great candidate. Let's push you through the pipeline. But show us that you've done the work, right? This is what we talk about before with like looking for companies, is what do you want to do, right? When I get people who are just saying like, here's my resume, that does not help me at all. So be as specific as possible. Help us help you. You know what I mean?
I love that. Snaps for that, girl. Yeah, definitely getting more targeted with who you're reaching out to is great in that sense. And this is basically the same question. So we're going to keep talking about this for a little bit. But what I would really like to hit on as well, and I think it's perfect because Sarah hit on the like beginning portion. I'm going to talk about like more in the past, like, because in my opinion, you should be building your personal brand always so that you don't have to have these cold reach outs. You know, if you're serious about a company, if working at Spotify is your dream and that is your dream company, you should be connecting with tons of people from Spotify all the time. You should be reaching out to them. You should be learning about the company. You should be learning about the different branches. You should be developing those relationships so that when a role becomes available that you're super excited about, you already have a network of contacts who can help you. So it's exactly what Sarah said. You have to know where you want to go. You need clarity and you need understanding so that you can make the best plan moving forward. You can develop your personal brand. You can make those choices. And so it's not always easy. A lot of it is that chess game. A lot of it is, I'm going to make this move, which is going to affect this move 2 things later. And so, you know, I encourage you to sit down, really think about what you want and where you want to go, and draw a game plan out for yourself and sort of reverse engineer from there. How can I get there? Who can I connect with? Who aligns with my purpose? And how can I better connect with them? So
No, definitely. And I just want to preface as well is you're going to reach out to people and you're not going to have everyone respond to you. And that is okay, right? Like you're not people that you've like coffee chatted with and then maybe they just stop messaging you. It is not on you at all. So remember, like I remember I had that when I was still a senior, and I remember I talked to this one recruiter and it was all really good. And I was like so excited. We were going to have another chat, and then it just like never happened. And I kind of looked through the LinkedIn messages like, oh my gosh, like, did I say anything? Like what happened? And you had to remember, people have their lives outside of work, and it's really not personal. It's nothing on you. It's nothing that you did. But you have to remember is if people aren't going to respond to you, that's fine. But find the people that do, right? Focus that time and energy on building relationships of people who are invested in you. And trust me, like you're going to find that. It takes time. But again, like any relationship takes time. And if you're not willing to put in that time, then it's like, how much are you willing to invest into your career, right? Your network is your net worth. And like, it's really important to keep building and following up. And another thing too, like if someone has helped you, like remember to like thank them, like 3 months, 6 months down the road, just let them know. Like people love getting those messages. Like I love getting those messages when people are like, oh, Sarah, like after chatting with you, like I've actually landed this role. Like that just honestly makes my day. So follow up in that sense. It doesn't have to be a one and done conversation. And also too, when you're coffee chatting, be you, be genuinely you. It's not an interview. This person is taking time out of their personal day to chat with you. So if you're going to chat with them, just be authentically you. Because I definitely had some coffee chats where people kind of had like all these questions written up, and I felt like I was being in like an interview, and I was just like, oh, okay. And it's not, it's just, I think it's important to remember really just like talk like you're talking with a new friend, right? It's not as scary as it sounds, and it gets a lot easier the more you do it.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. And we have a question here from Rubenia. My previous experience is not in software development. It is in management. Do I put it anyways if I'm applying to software engineering and data science roles? I love this question. Okay, so I would say it could potentially depend. How many years of experience role you're applying for. You don't want to potentially age yourself out. If it's a more junior role, it may benefit you to potentially leave some things off your experience in that way. But I would say generally, if you've been in management, I'm going to assume you're, applying for something maybe a little bit higher up. In that sense, I would say, any sort of management is great because it's showing your people skills. It's showing your problem solving. It's showing your ability to work with a team. It's showing your ability to project manage, have that eagle eye oversight. So personally, I really love management experience. And I think it's all about transferable skills and all about how you frame it. Granted, not knowing everything, I can't really get more specific than that. But I would say a lot of times, in my opinion, it would be highly, highly useful. Your thoughts there, Sarah?
Oh no, I was gonna say the same thing. Management, like that is needed in any single role that you're in, right? So again, it's all about the transferable skills. I think it's definitely important to have, especially even as a software engineer, like you have to be able to manage your time, right? Like being able to prioritize different tasks and also work with the team to build a certain product or, app, right? So I think it depends on the role. Like, I think it's really important is really look at the day-to-day, see what they're kind of looking for in a candidate, and then have your resume really highlight that. I don't think it hurts you to put it in. It just like depends on how you kind of frame it.
Yeah, most definitely. And we have a question from Driss. Does Google and Microsoft look for technical profiles with some entrepreneurship skills, or do you prefer pure technical profiles? Because in most of the interviews, we can see a big focus from the big companies to the technical expertise. So, Sarah, you want to start with that one?
Yes. So honestly, again, from like just personal standpoint, it's honestly open to anything. I think if you have the expertise, I think entrepreneur skills are super awesome. Definitely put that on. It kind of depends on what the hiring manager is looking for. But I definitely know hiring managers are starting to look at, they're being a lot more open with their profiles versus just like I want this person from this university who has all of this experience, right? So it's the way you word your resume, but more importantly, it's the metrics that you put in. Because again, I've screened over, I think, 7,000 resumes, maybe more. And I kid you not, how many people actually just don't put in metrics or just kind of make the recruiter assume what they did, right? So I think it's the way you word that. But yeah, no, it's definitely open. It does not hurt. Entrepreneur skills are awesome to have. It's like leadership skills. Everyone's looking for a leader. So I definitely would say highlight those.
Yeah, most definitely. Sort of like Rubenia's question there. Anytime you can show that pivot, that project management, that ability to thrive in ambiguity and move between spaces, you're going to set yourself apart as an ideal candidate. Because life's not simple, right? There's times where you're working on a team and, everything might change. And then 2 weeks later, everything might change again. And they need to know that you're the kind of person who can roll with the punches. And in that sense, you would be really showing those skills in that way. So I think those would be valuable for you as well, Tris.
Definitely.
And I love this one. What does Google mean to you in terms of a company, not as a search engine? Yeah, so for this one, for me, I don't think I could sum it up in a word, but I mean, for me, if I had to, I'd say culture. I mean, before I came to Google, I worked on a bunch of teams that honestly didn't care as much. I had some bosses who were not the best, who did not inspire me, who did not pull the best out of me. And it wasn't until I came to Google and worked with some like amazing, empathetic leaders that I realized what true leadership was and how much I was holding myself back in that way. So for me, it's all about the culture. I love being here. Sarah, I don't know if you want to speak about maybe where you are now, or she was just recently at Google. It's up to you on that one.
Oh my gosh. I think it's both. Like I love Google. Like even though like I'm now at Microsoft, I love both companies. I think I can talk about like how I feel at both of them. They're both very open, right? Like I think we talk about culture and people. Like I feel so open. I don't feel micromanaged. I feel like if I want to work on a certain project, I can talk to my manager and they're like, yeah, like, let's see how that works. Again, you always have to put your core responsibilities first. But at both companies, I felt that openness to really be invested in your growth and what you want to do and what you want to learn. And definitely the people, like every single team I've been on, everyone's just been so awesome to just like share resources, share the knowledge, and just be able to help you ramp up. And oh my gosh, it's insane to feel so supported. And I think that's really what it makes it. It's the team culture, it's the people, it's the openness, it's not the micromanaging, it's a lot. And I'm very thankful to be been given these different experiences, graduating after like having Google as like my first real job out of college and now being here. So I'm hoping like in this role too, like I'm going to be able to help other people see their value and help them land some awesome jobs. Yeah.
I love it. Awesome. Well, we're going to take a few more questions. I was going to stop, but there's amazing more questions. So we're going to take a couple more. So right here, Kelly said, hello, I am looking to get into recruiting by starting with an RC role, but it seems like I get overlooked since I don't have any ATS experience, and I always get asked that. Any recommendations? Yes, and Sarah can speak to this. I know she's chomping at the bit because she was an RC.
I was an RC.
Yes, I will let her talk, but all I want to say is contract roles. I'm just going to say contract roles are a great way to get your foot in the door. But Sarah literally was an RC, so I'm going to let her take this one.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hi, Kelly. Yeah, I think a lot of times people they kind of look contract roles. But again, like my first job out of college was contracted at Google via Nelson Staffing, right? And so they contract with an RC role itself. I'm kind of surprised that they're not like even looking at you. ATS, there's a lot, I think, misconceptions with what an ATS is. It's literally just like kind of like a customer relationship management tool, I would like to say, that keeps tracks of all these different candidates. And so, Kelly, I think what would help you is really show like with being an RC, you have to be organized. You have to be able to multitask. You have to be okay with finding last minute replacements. And what I think really helped me was I had a lot of that different like experience in my past leadership roles at my different organizations and like being the recruitment chair and, founding my own business organization. So these were all like different like transferable skills. So like we talked about that, right? Transferable. So I think like that is something that I was going to help you in RC role. Something that I really recommend doing is looking out to these different agencies, honestly, introducing yourself to the recruiters, because agencies are always looking for great talent such as yourself, and just be like, hi, my name is Kelly. I'm actually really interested in becoming a recruiter coordinator. These are like kind of my past experiences. Are any of your clients looking for someone such as, like myself? That's a great way to do it. I would also reach out to fellow RCs who are actually look for RCs who are contract. You will know if they're contract, if it says contracted or they put via their agency. Again, this is all public knowledge, all public information. Find those agencies, because you're going to see at Google, there's so many different agencies that contract through them, even at Microsoft, even at Facebook, Amazon. So that's something I would do, is just stalk kind of on LinkedIn, make a list for yourself, reach out to those RCs and just be like, hey, I just want to introduce myself. I'm really interested, because those RCs are going to know when the next cycle of applicants are coming in. And if you're networking and you're keeping those relationships, like that is what's going to help you get your foot into the door. If you want to get at these big companies, or if you want to go on the smaller companies, just keep reaching out. But an RC role is amazing. It's challenging, but I think it definitely is helping me currently in my role today as a sourcer.
Oh yeah. And yes, Kelly, definitely reach out to Sarah. She'll be more than happy to connect with you, I'm sure. And yeah, definitely. And just so you guys know, because I love to give this information, I'm just going to name a few right now, just for the sake of having them. So there's Adecco, there's Nelson Staffing, there's Signature Consultants, there's Search Wizards, there's Mind Lance, there's Avero, there's
Artec,
yes,
Artec, oh my
god,
Collabra, Insight Global. There's so many agencies. And again, I think this information is really overlooked, but they're definitely reach out to them. They are always, trust me, they are always looking for talent, because they always have their clients wanting to fill their roles. But yes, Kelly, reach out to me. Happy to chat more. I love talking to passionate talenters or people who want to get into the RC world or want to get into the recruiting and sourcing world. Amazing.
Well, we are going to end with Alana, and I didn't skip you, Alana. It's just the question was so good, I wanted to save it for the end. But what is the most unexpected lesson you've learned through your professional experience? I'll let you take this one first, my love.
Okay, let me see. So the most unexpected lesson, I have to say, it's really understanding your value, right? Like, I think when I graduated school, I never dreamed that I'd be working at like Google and then now Microsoft, right? It just like, I always felt that kind of imposter syndrome of I could never do it, right? And I think the biggest lesson I learned, it's not what the company makes of me, right? It's what I make of it. It's the impact I make. And when I was a contractor at Google, I actually held 3 different roles. And a lot of times people told me like, you can only stay in one role, like you can't move, you can't do anything like that. And like, I did that. And that's what helped me get to those next roles. So I think the biggest thing is like, I've learned in my professional experience is not limiting myself, like reaching out to people, utilizing the resources, really just like diving into like what I can bring to the team and making impact, and like being comfortable to talk to my manager about, oh, these are the skill sets I want to expand, or maybe these are the projects I would like to start, or like looking for inefficiencies and seeing how we can like change that. Like, even if you're new, there's always ways for your outside knowledge that someone would never know, right? So I think the biggest thing is really believing in yourself. Like, you have so much value to give, and it's not where you work that's going to show that. It's what you're going to make of it, and the brand and the story you're going to tell. So trust in yourself, because you are more than just your company.
I love that. I think that speaks to so much about the team that we were on together, because my answer is the exact same thing. Literally, like, what I wanted to say is the exact same. I don't think I could have said it better. But it's something I say all the time. I mean, you guys who are familiar with me on LinkedIn, who follow me regularly, know, less than 2 years ago, I was a bartender. I was a manager for a promotional company, and I was slinging drinks 5 nights a week, working 60 hours a week, like killing myself. And I never thought that Google was in the realm of possibility for me. Never. I knew I was smart and intelligent and that I could do things with my life, but I was limited by like, what was in front of me. I wasn't expanding myself beyond that. And it wasn't until I came into this space and met all these amazing people that I always knew it, but I realized how strong I really was. And I realized how far I could really go and how much ambition I really had. And so it's, I don't know, it lit a fire in me, and it's just incredible. So I would say one of the most important things I've learned is stop holding yourself back. Just do it. Just take the leap, take the plunge, move forward. And you know what? Sometimes you're going to mess up, but if you tried and you failed, congratulations. Most people don't even try, right? So you are a step above in that way. So that would be my lesson.
Definitely. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And exactly the same as Jennifer was saying is, if you don't reach out to that person, or like if you reached out to the person, they don't respond, okay, that's okay. Like you're back at square one, right? But if you reach out to a person and they respond, that's a new relationship to get you to that next step, right? Like when in my last role, honestly, my last role, I was in Austin, Texas. I was remote. I was the only Californian. And the reason how I got that role was because I was just networking inside Google, talking to other like fellow OCS on different teams. And when somebody told me like, hey, Sarah, like send me your resume. Like, I think our team is hiring. I was like, okay. So I sent it. And then the manager saw it and then she reached out to me, right? Like and that's the craziest thing is I never would have gotten that role if it weren't for me putting myself out there to talk to people, to learn about what that role was, an online candidate specialist, right? And then speaking of that, that's how I landed to my role today, right? Like I definitely don't think I'd be in this spot if I didn't have that past experience. So everything has a way of working itself out. Again, it's not rejection, it's redirection. And like, you just have to keep putting yourself out there, and not just yourself out there, but putting your best foot forward and never really giving up on yourself, because I would say you are your biggest advocate, but you're also your biggest limitation, right? So stop limiting yourself and just go full forward. It's all going to work out.
Yes. 2021 is our year, guys. It's going to be better than 2020. People are hiring like crazy. So get your resumes ready. This is the best time of year. It's the best time of year. Get in on the action. That is about it for us, guys. Sarah, do you want to give people a chance where they can connect with you and find more about your services, etc.?
Yes. So you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn at Sarah Davidson. You can find me either at Talent Sourcer, at Microsoft via Search Wizards, or you can type in Red Thread Services. That's my motivational business career coaching. But yeah, that's how you can find me. Feel free to connect. Actually, your homework is, because a lot of people don't do this, is send me a personalized invite, right? Like where you found me, or like maybe one thing you learned about today that you loved. And like, I'm happy to connect. I'm an open book. So definitely let's get you guys hired.
I love it. Action items. I got to start doing that. Man, that's perfect. Love it. Well, thank you for being here, Sarah. I appreciate you. And have a great week, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you for having me.